brother is in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
You aware of John Edwards? You know John Edwards is the psychic medium, John
Mhm.
Edwards. So my brother's first wife died. She was killed in a car accident years ago, and it was a pretty big deal. It was on TV a lot, and we've had psychics on the show, or people that claim to be psychics that bring that up to me because it's easy when you Google it, it comes right up, and it's you can tell who the fakers are. So, but John Edwards, I'll tell you, he is amazing. So he had a show in Orlando, and my brother, this is maybe a year after his wife died, he bought tickets. Well, he had no tickets; it was sold out right away. So my brother said, "I'm going down there with $1,000, and I'm going to try and get a ticket to get in." And I said, "All right, I'll go with you. If you get 2 tickets, I'll go. If not, I'll just wait outside." So we drove down there, and we were there hours early, and we ended up finding somebody that had an extra ticket. My brother bought the ticket from them, and then I said, "Go inside and save me a seat. I'll get in." And I snuck into the John Edwards thing. And it was one of the most amazing things that I'd ever seen live. This was really towards the beginning of the internet, so it wasn't like people with their phones and all that stuff. It was just him doing readings. And one of the most amazing things that I saw about him was he is relentless. It is so easy to do what he does to an audience of people who want to hear what you're telling them that it made me think it was really fake. So if I came over to you, Gio, and I found out that your grandmother passed away, say your father, or just I'll come over here and I'll go to a group of people. I'll go, who's somebody over here is a father. Father
Oh,
passed away.
me.
Right. It'll be about 5 hands that'll go up. Of course, people's father are going to pass away. Whose father passed away at a young age? Okay, 3 hands go down, 2 are up. Okay, whose father? I'm seeing an F word. My father was Fred. Okay, you're the one I'm talking to, and that's what he does. He eliminates it down. So I see that as a way for somebody to be a little bit of a trickster. The Penn and Teller will tell you they can do it too. They can figure it out, manipulate it, whatever. But I watched John Edwards to a group of 600 people go. Somebody who died in a plane crash, a big plane crash, and a bunch of hands go up, believe it or not. And he's like, this was like a big plane, and lady, oh well, my husband was flying a Cessna with 3 people. No, not you. He has somebody already. Like he could go, was his name whatever, and keep asking questions until it narrows down. He wants you to know that he loves you and he's okay. Oh my God, I spoke to my husband, just like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost. But I watched him deny, and keep going around the room till he finally dialed it into the right person. My husband was on a 747 that crashed in Hawaii, and it was 80 people, and he died. And did he? I see something to do with grass. Why am I thinking grass? He owned a lawn care business. Like it was amazing. Like he really was talking to that person. So at one point during the thing, he had come over to our area, and he's like, "I see somebody over here who just lost their job, and I had just gotten fired from 98 Rock." So my brother looked at me and I looked at him, and my hand went up with everybody else's, and he came over and he's talking. He thinks it's the lady in front of me, and he starts talking to the lady in front of me. She goes, "Who's Canada? What do I see Toronto?" And she's like, he goes, "Are you from New York?" And the lady's like, "No." He goes, "I see somebody going from New York to Canada." And that was when Wells just got traded to the Blue Jays. It happened like the day after. He goes, "You, a friend of yours, somebody that you're close to, just moved to, or is moving, making ready to move to Canada." Like everything he was saying, I felt like it was about me, but I didn't want to be like, "That's me."
Yeah.
So I just kept my mouth shut. But anyway, this was 20 years ago, maybe more, 25 years ago or so that this happened. And then he had the TV show and he blew up and things went big. Well, my brother is in LA right now and he is filming a documentary that my niece is making. She goes to USC Film School. She was given a grant to make a documentary and she's making it about my brother. And this is where I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I'm going to say anyway. My brother's very funny, and she feels like maybe he would have had a chance to do stand-up comedy, and that maybe if he didn't have this tragedy in his life, that he would have been able to do some sort of something that he enjoyed more than the job that he did and was very successful at, where it required no humor. So it's a very interesting idea for a documentary. So he's out there in LA and he's going to eventually try to do stand up and see if he's good at it or if he fails.
We gotta go.
We're definitely going to go.
Oh,
And it's going to be as good if he bombs as if he does well,
Yeah.
because it just makes for a good documentary. So they're in LA and John Edward is in LA right now. So they go to see John Edward. And he comes over and nails my brother right out of the gate. And I don't want to go into the details there because it's not really about him, and I don't want to give up information. But the things that he was saying to my brother were not about his wife, not about my mother who passed away last year, about another situation that's even further away but really tightly connected to my brother and hitting everything right on the mark. And he's like, out of all the things they're talking about, death and all these things, he goes, why am I seeing like writing or there's some sort of production or something? And he looks and he's like, my daughter, she's got a scholarship to film school. She's doing a project. That's why I'm here. And he goes, what's Florida? Why is Florida here? And he goes, I flew in from Florida yesterday. Like all these things were amazing. Like, but here's the thing. He was talking to him about something, a suicide and something completely different. And then he just bust in with, what's the production? What's Florida? Where is this? And he goes, I see my aunt, and my aunt to me is Florida. And I know to say Florida. That's what it pops into his head, what he sees. So, so anyway, the big takeaway is when it was all over, the producers grabbed my brother and said, hang out here, don't leave for a second. They came back and they said, he wants to do another reading with you on Zoom and film it for the documentary, to put in the documentary. I was like, oh man, that's dude, I want so badly to be like, guy is a complete complete sham. He's a complete fake, but he's so good at it,
Yeah.
But he's so that's how they all signs point.
You want to believe.
I know.
It's real. You got to. I know you haven't. I know none of you will. But that podcast is called "Where Is My Mind." The guy who hosts the podcast talks to a scientist who has been researching mediums for 20 years, and she has over 1,000 legit mediums. She does quadruple blind tests on them to prove that they're legit or not. I know you probably.
John Edwards says this is the one thing about him that when he says like I see my aunt usually means Florida. That he will tell you. I don't have. He goes. I've learned how to do it. I could teach you how to do it.
Everybody has it.
Everybody has it. He's like, I'm not talking to your mother. I'm not talking to you. I'm seeing things in my mind that are being placed there so that I can send you a message. He's pretty honest about what it is.
Because we had his disciple on, the guy that was under him, and it was my wife was my girlfriend at the time, and she called in, and he was able to. Her uncle, who was a cop, and all that type of stuff, which was crazy.
Yeah, it was
just over the phone. Didn't know anything about her. There was no way he could have known that.
Also, I'd like to say if it is a scam, 100%, okay, which I tend to believe more that it is. If it is a scam, the best scam ever. This guy is booked for years in advance. He's a multi-millionaire. You want to believe.
I'm telling you, it's real. I know you guys, you don't believe it. I'm telling you, it's real.
Look, I believe that there's a possibility that our mind could do things we don't understand, and he seems to have tapped into it.
The CIA has been doing research and using people's psychic ability. You can look this stuff up.
It's a TV show on it.
It would have been a lot better if Houdini would have done something.
I know that would
Houdini or the Amazing Randy.
That would have.
The Amazing Randy tried to point out John Edwards before he died, and he said he did it. He did the same thing, but he didn't do it the way John Edwards did it. He did it in a very vague and general way.
He's not as good. John Edwards has been honing his craft for a long time.
I don't know. Also, John Edwards, I feel like a guy who's that much of a fake should be a little bit more showy. And this guy's like, no, I'm just.
But also interesting about John Edwards, haven't heard that name for a long time.
Still out there working, still making money,
making tons of money. But I'm saying like he doesn't have his TV show. He's not on all these different shows.
I think it's
like,
hard.
We saw him so much.
I think it's hard to translate in TV. TV lets magicians be fake. It lets everybody be fake. It's hard to really. I made my wife watch Penn and Teller Fool Us or Fool Penn and Teller, whatever the show's called. And she got mad because they don't tell you how they did the trick at the end. She was like, how did they do that?
Now with the internet, you can Google everything. You go to YouTube and like literally.
I learned how to float.
Any magic trick, they'll show you.
I learned how to levitate like David Blaine from doing it.
Yeah. The Long Island medium. Did you ever see Kate McKinnon from SNL do
yes,
that? Was so good.
In that podcast, that they talk to mediums that work for the FBI, that work for the CIA currently right now, using whatever powers they have to find people.
And I was gonna say they've been where there's police that are like, all right, we gotta use it. We gotta try and figure this out, and then wind up using mediums.
I said to my brother, I believe it, but here's the one thing: how my annoying mother didn't break through in that conversation. He goes, oh, she did, and I go, what do you mean? And he goes, John Edwards is talking to me about a suicide, and all of a sudden he goes, what's the production about? What's that all about? What's Florida? And he goes, that's your mother going, ask him about Florida. Ask him about my niece who's doing, my granddaughter who's doing it. He goes, that was your mother.
At the same time, my kids have this like machine
where you like type in the answers
That's
and
an
it,
eight ball.
and it guess what you think. Like
Yeah.
every time.
20 question ball.
Yeah, like
But they narrow it down. My son had that, and they narrow it down to the access of the internet, to where you're saying, you go, okay, is it over 40? Well, you've eliminated 8 million people by saying no. And then is it an actor? Well, you've eliminated another 12. So it just narrows it down by
but I mean,
fact.
that's a kid's toy. So
Yeah.
imagine if you're like a professional at doing that.
Yeah.
That's why anytime I do anything, pick a card or do that, like 20 questions, whatever, I think of someone or think of a card, and then I think of a different one.
Change it.
Yeah, I change it before because I go, well, if I thought of that one, that's probably the obvious one. So then I'm going to go with this one.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Let's
Sure.
do
We'll
that.
see whether it works.